Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Wherever you're joining us from, welcome. If you could go ahead and just put in the chat where you're joining us from, that would be great for us to get an idea of where everybody's joining us from. But first of all, I just want to say welcome. It's great to have you here. Bit of introduction, my name is Tosan, and I'm part of an incredible hardworking team here at BNet Learning. You know, it's been said, if you want to go fast, go alone, and if you want to go far, go with others. And that's what we here at BNet do. We join together with individuals, institutions, and organizations to go very far. So we're really happy to have you here, and knowing fully well that you have a reason for joining us. But first of all, what is BNet? BNet is a professional education platform that exists to provide world-class training services. Our classes are led by experienced, certified, and expertly trained facilitators. We offer a wide range of training, some of which you'll see on this slide. It's financial analysis, project management, business analysis, data analytics, and project management, just to name a few. You can visit our website, www.bnetlearning.com, for more information on current and upcoming classes, what the classes are about, who our facilitators are, and a lot of other things. Now, why are we here? This webinar is one of our regular monthly get-togethers, where one of our facilitators comes to provide high-level information about one of our classes and its benefits to you, your career journey, or the career journey of your employees, whatever situation you find yourself in. So, this webinar, you saw the title, you thought to join. Who is this webinar actually for? It's for different types of people. It's for transitioning experienced professionals who want to get into the business analysis space. It's for the entry level or the mid-level analyst, wherever you are in your career, it's for you. And it's for anyone who has ever wondered about how to build experiential knowledge in the business analysis space, but especially with a focus on hands-on skills. So in a few minutes, I'll be handing the mic over to John, who will be talking about how to attain job readiness in the business analysis space. But then you may ask yourself, who is John and what gives him the right to speak on this topic? Let me tell you. John is a product management and business analysis practice leader. He has proven experience across the domain of business analysis, digital product development, technology project management, business strategy, and entrepreneurship. Between 2009 and 2015, John was notably instrumental in the promotion and widespread adoption of business analysis principles and best practices as enshrined by the IIBA, particularly in Nigeria and Ultra Africa, and recently in Canada. As BNet Learning's founder and a financial industry product management leader, John continues to apply business analysis principles to solve small-scale, large-scale, medium-scale enterprise problems. And at the same time, he spends quality time mentoring and coaching professionals and aspiring professionals in this domain. And I am one of the benefits of his mentoring program. Now, at the end of John's presentation, there will be time for questions because I know a lot of you already have questions. Please do write them down. Please put them in the chat box below, and the background team, there's a team of people, support team, who will pass them on to John once that part of the session comes around. So let me wish you happy listening. Bring out your notebooks, pens, take down notes, and get ready with your questions. Over to you, John.
Thanks, Tosan, and hi, everybody. Thank you for taking the time to join this session. I'm hoping that it's going to be very valuable to you all together. First off, I'm hoping it's going to be interactive. I don't have too many slides. I want to talk with people, answer questions, just share thoughts with me as well. And I think Tosan has really spoken so well to the context of this presentation. I think it's a privilege for me to be able to be here to share my experience over the last 13 to 14 years in this domain with you all. And I'll share my screen briefly. But I see that we have a number of people from different locations. So I think it's really great to see the diverse locations all of you folks have joined from. I see talking about from Calgary, I see Ashik from Abu Dhabi. I see Shreya. I see YF from Lagos. Good to see YF. I see Augustine Botana from Spain. I see Dan from Minneapolis. I see Yana from Savage, Minnesota. So lots of different lovely places that you all have joined from. So thank you for joining. So I'm going to go on and share my screen right now, and we'll get started. Okay. So this topic is a very important one, and I'll tell you why it's really important. So first off, I've been in this space for a while. I've done a ton of mentoring, still do. I see the challenges that people face, and I'm glad that the Binet team has actually deemed it fit to give us this platform to share some experiences around this topic, right? So I won't go into introductions anymore. I think Tosan has done a great job with that. So let's talk about the desired outcomes. What are the things that I want to leave with? Okay. I think the first one is establishing that job readiness, right? Ensuring that people have the understanding of what does it take for me to be job ready for a BA role. I've done some trainings, I'm even certified, but how can I be job ready as a business analyst, right? The other thing is beyond the understanding, how can I really define tangible actions that I can take to be the ideal candidate for hiring managers who are hiring business analysts, right? And then what are those opportunities for hands-on skill development? We're going to dive into them. So these are the outcomes that we are hoping that we can get into shortly. And deeper down into the why, right? Like I said, I've seen a ton of people getting stuck in that transition, right? So you hear about business analysis, you have the interest, you do some research, you get trained, get certified, right? Or any of those options, but you find it hard to really get into a BA role, right? And in some cases, some folks even get the jobs, but they really struggle to thrive in those roles, right? So it's really important for us to decompose these issues and try to understand what those potential root causes might be and how we can deal with them altogether, right? And I'll try to monitor the chat to see if any questions come through. I like to pause so you can actually just throw up your questions while I'm speaking. We don't have to wait for the Q&A because, like I said, I would like to make it very interactive as much as possible. All right. Now, so first of all, career transitions can be complex. They aren't exactly walks through the park, right? You know, there are a lot of components that you might have to deal with. And I say that they are like onions. So there are several layers that you have to peel through. And sometimes if you don't get it right at one layer, it might make it harder for you to get it right at the next layer, okay? So there are different approaches or views or perspectives around what those layers can be. But here, I've painted a picture of some different layers that you might actually come across as you try to transition from different careers into business analysis. Now, first, there has to be that desire, right? You know, or motivation. There's something that has triggered you to start to consider, you know, transition into business analysis as a career path, right? And then you do some research, talk to friends, go on Google, do all of those interesting things, right? And you either say, yes, this is for me, or no, this is not for me. And that's okay, right? So majority get through this stage and move on to learning, building that foundational knowledge, getting certified, right? ECBA for entry level, CCBA for intermediate, CBAP for senior level, right? And all of this kind of stuff, which is fantastic. But a lot of people get stuck when it comes to building the capacity for hands-on skills, building their proficiency with techniques and tools and whatnot. And once they get stuck at this level, it becomes harder to go all the way down to those other layers, like getting introductory work experience opportunities, whether they are volunteer roles or internships or secondments or co-ops and whatnot, right? And then they might even struggle with pitching themselves as the ideal candidate with proper resume preparation, networking with the right people, searching for the right, fit opportunities or jobs, interview preparations and all that. And of course, that would make their career probably become stunted in a sense, right? The opportunities for continuous growth might not be there or might not be identified or seen, right? Competency development becomes a struggle, right? So this is a picture I've painted. And like I said, there are different perspectives and viewpoints altogether. But I'm wondering if some of us see ourselves at these different layers of the onion diagram here. And I'm curious, where would you put yourself, right? So how about we do this? I was going to use a Slido link, but how about we go into the chat and then you just pop in there what layer you think you are at, right? Are you at the desire to research and exploration level, or are you at the learning, foundational knowledge, certification level of your career transition, or are you at the level of key hands-on skills development? And are you stuck there, right? So if you can, please go into the chat. I'd like to hear from you folks. Tell me, what layer do you think you're at right now? I'm seeing some chats coming through right now. I'm seeing Debbie says she's at the learning stage. Daniel is also at the learning stage. Shreya is at the learning stage. Fantastic. Curious what other folks think. Ola is at the learning foundational level. Okay, learning stage. So a lot of folks are just at that learning stage. And Patrick is qualified, no job. Okay. Samuel is foundational level, work experience level. Okay. So we're seeing the diversity of different layers that people are on. And I think it is very critical that we walk through these different layers and discuss how folks can actually become successful in moving through all of the stages. And I believe that there is a question here. I'm going to scroll up. To see the question. So yeah, so Shreya says, what is the main challenge faced in career transition into business analysis? Good question, Shreya. And I think we sort of have our answer here. And probably we can get some validations as well from the audience at some point. But I think it's so easy to get motivated, to pull that trigger, right? And then start your learning journey and get certified. Exams aren't so hard to pass, relatively. Now, where a lot of folks struggle is translating the theory that they've learned into practice. And this requires not just, traditional trainings where, you have a coach just telling you all the nice things they know, showing off their knowledge and their expertise, right? But you would need opportunities where you are learning experientially. You are learning in an hands-on format, right? But not only that, you also need opportunities to apply those skills. And that is where those introductory work experience programs would come in, right? So it is very important, as we'll see, and this comes from very practical situations. Like I said, I've coached a lot of, BA career transitioners, I'll call them, in the last 10 plus years. And I still do, in my spare time. But there's a theme that I've seen that I'm hoping that the business learning team can work harder to address, which I believe the team is working harder to address right now, is how can we put a lot more focus on hands-on skill development and helping people to find opportunities for introductory work experience. So I hope that answers your question, Shreya. That is where we're seeing the biggest challenge. And that is why we called out this stage and then of course the next one, right? So those two red flags are where we are seeing the biggest issues lately, right? And these are coming, this comes from direct feedback from people who are on this journey altogether. Okay, so I've gotten some of your answers and I'm going to skip this. So now, let me also ask a question here. For those of us that are learning, right? On a scale of 1 to 9, how familiar are you with the business analysis body of knowledge? I know some are certified already, so that question might just be a bit redundant. Fantastic question, Kenny. Soft skills, yes. So we're going to talk about soft skills shortly. Some would refer to it as underlying competencies. In fact, the IBA refers to those soft skills as the underlying competencies. All right. So we're going to come to those shortly as well. We're going to address them. So I'm curious, On a scale of 1 to 9, how familiar are you folks with the business analysis body of knowledge? You know, the concepts, the principles, the knowledge areas, right? So Aki is on an 8 here, which is fantastic. 5. So we have some different levels of familiarity, you know, some knowledge of the fundamentals, of the principles, right? That actually defines this domain of business analysis, right? So you understand business analysis, planning and monitoring, you understand elicitation and collaboration, you understand requirement lifecycle management, you understand requirements analysis and design definition, strategy analysis, solution evaluation. So you do understand some of those things. You know theoretically what those tasks are, what those techniques are, which is fantastic, right? Now, but you'd realize that there is a proficiency scale. So at the very top of my screen here, you see this proficiency scale. And this is really a picture of the journey. We can really juxtapose that career transition with this proficiency scale and have a clear picture of why we are stuck or where we are stuck. Okay. Now, so you've improved, you spent time, you've invested time into improving your general awareness and understanding and basic knowledge about the role of the BA, right? The BA function, tasks and techniques and all of that, which is great. But how do we take you further to a level of practical knowledge and then to a level of skill, right? And in the last 10 years, I've had the privilege of hiring business analysts, also being hired myself at different points. And in interviews and via resumes, I see a lot of folks who project their general awareness. They project their basic knowledge, but when it comes to interviews, they might struggle with projecting their practical knowledge and skill, right? The truth is, if you don't have it, it might be hard for you to really share it. All right, and we will speak to that a little bit more. So I'm going to zoom in a bit and zoom out, right? So general awareness, practical knowledge, and skills are the core things that a transitioning business analyst should ideally prioritize getting through. You cannot get one and leave the other. You cannot get general awareness of business analysis principles, the body of knowledge, tasks and techniques, and not get practical knowledge. And then if you have the practical knowledge, you definitely have to leverage it to strengthen your skills. Oh, can you actually decompose an enterprise problem? Do thorough needs analysis, do thorough root cause analysis. Can you identify opportunities via market analysis and benchmarking? Have you done it before? You know, can you actually facilitate ideation workshops, requirements validation workshops, right? Can you manage requirements backlogs? Have you written user stories and all of that? So there's a difference between having that basic knowledge and having the practical knowledge and then being skilled at doing those things. Okay, now, so this is really important. So the fact that you have spent time on the left here building your understanding of the knowledge areas will not suffice for you to be successful in your transition. It must go beyond that. And I think it was Kenny that was asking earlier on about soft skills. Soft skills, underlying competencies, right? Behavioral characteristics, business knowledge, communication skills, interaction skills, tools and technologies, analytical thinking and problem solving skills. All of these play a major role altogether. And I won't talk so much about the perspectives. So in the middle here, we have different perspectives, which are like different, you know, ways business analysis principles are applied to solve enterprise problems or meet needs or create value, right? Using different methodologies, approaches, and techniques. All right. Now, so I'm hoping that people understand, that you all understand right now, that these 3 steps in the journey are really important. You must follow that sequence and see it through. You must at least be at a point between practical knowledge and skilled for you to be an ideal candidate. Resumes are great, certifications are great, but when you come into an interview, I want to actually see an experiential presentation of what you know. I want you to be able to cite examples and be able to convince me as the hiring manager that the moment you touch ground or you touch down in our environment after we hire you, you can start delivering value. Now, of course, as an entry-level to intermediate level business analyst, we would expect to see some gaps. So you don't need to have 100% of all the capabilities that we desire or need, right? So it is okay for you to have some gaps. And that is why you are not a senior business analyst yet, right? So any ideal work environment, an ideal team and leader will provide you support, would support you with a development plan altogether, so that you can continuously grow, improve your proficiency in different areas of skill as a business analyst. All right. Any questions around this particular thing? Like I said, I want it to be a bit interactive. I don't want it to be a one-way conversation. Do you have any question around the sequence of flow, or this sequence of growth from general awareness to practical knowledge to skill in this case? Any question from anyone? So I want to be sure that we are following exactly. I mean, certification is great. Value is what you are able to do with it. And in some past presentations, I have likened certifications to spotlights, right? So if you go to you know, for a performance and the stage is set, right? If there's no good enough lighting, people might struggle to see who is performing and what they're performing on the stage, right? But the spotlight is not enough. You need both the spotlight and the ability to perform. Certifications and fantastic resumes will put the spotlight on your profile as a professional in the BA space, right? So, but once you have the spotlight, what do you do with it? Can you really perform, right? So that's why I see a lot of us. I've seen probably several hundreds, maybe a few thousands resumes, right? And I see that pattern. I see people who list all of the certifications, some 50 certifications, 20 certifications, which are all great. But what can you really do once that light is turned on? Can you get it done? Can you deliver value? Right? Now, to Ketochi's question, if you're a beginner, how do you build the skills? So we're going to get to it shortly, right? Because don't forget that for anything in life, not just business analysis, you need that general awareness first, okay? That, of course, you start with the desire to want to learn about a particular subject or a domain, right? You invest in learning, you build the foundational knowledge, but you should not stop there. How can you find opportunities for things like apprenticeship or internships, right? How do you find opportunities to volunteer so that you can own your skills? If you don't use it, you lose it, right? So it is really important that we all realize that skill is built and developed by doing, not by studying. Studying is important. It makes you aware of what you would expect to face when you start to apply or when you start to perform. But it is really important that you do stuff. So if I sit back, right, and I keep learning about how to in fact, I have a story. So when we were much younger, my older brother and myself, we were, of course, young kids fascinated about driving, right? So we're teenagers, and then my father had lots of books about driving, right? So he was an automotive engineer, so he had all of those books. So there was this very nice book about, you know, learning to drive and everything. So we took our time and studied how to drive, okay? And then one Saturday afternoon, my brother felt, well, I think we're ready. So he gets the key. My parents were in home. Gets the key to the car, and then and of course, you know, it was a shift gear, it was a manual transmission, which are even a lot harder. And then it starts the car, and the car is actually in gear. The gear was engaged, and the car jumps forward. Now, what's missing? There's a gap between performance and theoretical learning that was missed. The mentoring, the hand-holding, the observatory learning, right? The on-the-job coaching required, the work experience required was lacking. He had never really sat beside a coach who would actually say, watch what I do, shadow, job shadowing. All of those were missing. And then we had a little bit of a crash, right? Now, so that happens with a lot of business analysts, not just business analysts, folks who are career transitioning. You read all the books, looks great, and then you want to just jump into it and you get stuck. All right. Okay. So moving on because of time. Now, so back to the basics, just a little reference to the most broad, most relevant and accepted definition of business analysis. Right? You've seen this before. You probably know this right off the bat, right? So business analysis is the practice of enabling change in an organizational context by defining needs and recommending solutions that deliver value to stakeholders. Right? So those keywords, they pop up, right? Those core concepts, they pop up, right? Change, context, solution, value, stakeholders, needs, right? If you've read the book, if you're certified, you're familiar with the 6 core concepts of business analysis, right? Now, so they pop up here, but ultimately, the business analyst must be able to deliver value as well to an organization. So if we hire you with all of your theoretical knowledge, how will you deliver value? And let me also add that as a hiring manager, I ideally don't want to hire somebody that will add more to my workload. I'm okay with spending a couple of weeks and holding, but I want to see how they can actually make my work easier and help the organization achieve our goals, help me also achieve the goals that I'm accountable for to the enterprise. So if you're, a prospective applicant, right, you're a transitioning BA, it's important for you to identify what are the ways I can quickly add value, and we'll get to that shortly as well, right? Now, the other thing I wanted to add back to the basics is that when we say business analyst, it is not necessarily somebody who has the job title business analyst. I think we've spoken about this in a lot of our sessions, and it is super important that we all remember this, right? That business analysis is not defined by a job title. It's defined by the activities you perform. So my role or my job title can be HR operations manager, but as part of my role, I'm expected to actually do some strategic analysis work, operational improvement, process improvement for the HR function. Then in that case, I'm performing some business analysis role. But some roles are primarily centered around business analysis, like a product owner role, like a management consultant role, or an enterprise architect role, or a business architect role, and different others, where the primary function is built around day-to-day business analysis activities. Okay, so they could be called anything: requirements engineer, process analyst, product manager, whatever they are called, as long as you're performing business analysis. So the discussion we're having this morning, or this afternoon, or this evening, wherever you may be, applies to any of those job titles, as long as they require the performance of business analysis activities. All right. Now, so back to the really important question: what do employers require of entry to intermediate level analysts? Right? You're making that transition, whether at the very entry level or you're making a lateral move from an experienced role into business analysis. Let's assume you used to be a back office operations manager with a financial institution, right? Or you used to be a business development person for a technology startup, and you're trying to switch into business analysis role. That will be more like a lateral move, right? But you're going to be required to learn some new skills. So what is required? So before we dive into exactly what is required, let me give some clarifications, or make some clarifications here. Now, no two BA role or roles will be the same. They will vary between organizations and industries and specializations. And I'll show you that shortly. I like to use real examples, right? And of course, the expectations of what a new BA should bring to the game would actually cover core analysis skills and underlying skills. what Kenny was referring to earlier as, soft skills in some cases, okay? Now, I also mentioned that new BAs need not possess 100% proficiency in all the required skills that are listed in the job posting before you apply for the role, all right? We can come back to that as well. So let me pause a little bit. Let's be very practical. Let's assume that Ketochi or Sean is transitioning into a BA career and they're job searching, right? And then we come here. So this is indeed one of the really popular. I'll zoom in so we can see. Like I said, I want this to be very, very practical, right? So you can go out and apply this. So let's assume Sean is trying to search for a BA role. He's certified, he's trained, he thinks he has some skills already, so he's looking for a BA role, right? And he does the search the traditional way and says business analyst. By the way, I'm going to tell you later why I do not recommend that you only job search by job titles, okay? And the reason for that is that there are different job titles out there. We're living in a dispensation that is very creative. So you have a lot of different creative job titles out there that might not really match what you are used to. So you might miss out on opportunities if you only job search by job titles, okay? But I'll show you an example of how to do better shortly. But let's assume right here that you are searching with the job title business analyst, okay? Here. So what I want to show you right now, what I want to illustrate is the fact that there are different types of BA roles, all right? And I'll come back to answer Sean's question shortly. So this first one that pops up here is a business operations analyst role. The second one is a business systems analyst role. The third one is IT business analyst. The fourth one says senior business analyst. So it could be different thing. This one is a domain specific business analysis role in the healthcare industry. This one is business analyst supplier inclusion. This one is a business integration analyst. So there are different sub-domains of specializations for BA work or in the BA domain altogether. So you would need some guidance to really understand how to pitch your tent when it comes to, applying for jobs, for BA jobs, right? But I was just going to show you. So if you look at this particular role, the business operations role, let's look at the primary responsibilities. So it has financial planning and analysis here. It has productivity and cost analysis. It has reporting. So this is very much a strategic type BA role. It's different from this that is more technology inclined, right? Where you are working on, so this is definitely an engineering, engineering type BA role, right? Support systems, platform provisioning in the telecoms industry. So that's what I see here, okay? Familiarity with the domain, as well as familiarity with methodologies and tools like Jira. So, and this is the senior level, by the way, all right? So one more example here. Let me look for let's look at the generic one. So business analyst healthcare, all right? So let's look at this. It says, so domain expertise is required because you need to provide business analysis and clinical health systems, subject matter expertise with the ability to provide in-depth knowledge, blah, blah, blah. So process logic, process flow, right? So facilitates design sessions, requirements documentation, and all of that. All different roles, okay? So that's the first thing I like to establish. So these roles will be different. You need to understand how to really zoom in on opportunities, right? Now, and this is related to Sean's question. So they say here, wouldn't depend a lot on the specific business, or is it more of a general study of practice? Yes, good note. So this definitely relates to what I just said. It would depend a whole lot on the domain or industry or particular specializations that you're interested in. And there are a lot of factors that would influence how you can really dive into this space, right? Now, so your education, work experience, right? Available opportunities and whatnot. So there are all of factors that will influence that, right? And I see that my video is a bit blurred, so I'm going to just quickly do this and ensure that you all can see me. Very well. Now, so the lot of factors that would influence how you can specialize and explore opportunities in particular industries and domains. So one of the things I recommend to people is that, let's assume, Sean, you've worked in the financial sector. You've worked as a teller, then you became a financial advisor, and you became a relationship manager, and and you went through all of those ranks. And at some point, you were engaged as a subject matter expert, as a SME, right, on projects to probably replace any of your systems or applications or improve your processes in the bank. You can use that as a bridge to get into business analysis. So you're moving from being a domain practitioner, a banker, for example, and then at some point your knowledge and expertise was required on change initiatives that can provide you an opportunity to really jump into or move into the BA space altogether. So if you've been a banker, getting a BA job in the financial industry should be ideally easier for you because you understand the processes, the systems, the roles, the business rules and policies. So you can always leverage domain knowledge. Now, in the case where you don't have relevant domain knowledge in the spaces that you are looking to get into, and that's where opportunities like volunteering, right, like co-op programs and internships would come in, ideally. You might think it's impossible, right? But there are organizations, I'll probably share a link as well, at the end of the call. There are different platforms that offer you opportunities to volunteer for different roles, right? So I hope that answers Kenny's question. So you would need to really find a way to get into that domain, regardless of the hurdles and limitations in your way, to better understand how the banking industry works or how the healthcare industry works. Now, a lot of those entry-level roles would not put too much emphasis on domain knowledge. They will be willing to invest in you to gain domain knowledge. All right. So for time's sake, let's move on a bit. Now, so what are the common skills that new BAs will be expected to have? Now, this is not all of the skills or all of the techniques and all that BAs should have. The business analysis body of knowledge has 50 techniques in it that BAs can actually learn to build some proficiency around. And that list is not even exhaustive. All right. Now, so if I'm hiring a new BA, I would expect that they have some generic analysis skills, like functional decomposition. Can you take a very huge, complex topic and subject or object and break it down? Can you use tools like mind mapping? Can you do things like org modeling? Can you different approaches, creating solution breakdown structures? If you can, that's one point, right? Can you facilitate needs, problem, and opportunity analysis sessions? Can you ideate? Can you do all of that? Can you perform root cause analysis, whether you use 5 whys, right, or you use the Ishikawa diagram, right, or cause and effect diagrams, and whatever you can use, right? So I see that I repeated functional decomposition twice here. Sorry about that. And market analysis. Can you really look at an industry, can you look at the market and understand the forces, the market forces, and analyze what the success, criteria are for that particular industry? Can you really break down an understanding of the value proposition of different players in the industry and whatnot? Can you identify opportunities in the market? Process analysis. Can you help organizations really identify potential improvements and gaps and errors and defects in their processes, right? So you have things like value stream mapping, you have things like SciPoc, and I'm not going to get too deep into all of those things, but can you help analyze processes, right? And then also the citation skills. Can you really plan and schedule workshops and facilitate them to uncover information? Can you hold stakeholder interviews? Can you interact with stakeholders to understand their pain points, their needs, gaps, opportunities? Can you, facilitate brainstorming activities? Can you dig deep into existing documentation, excuse me, in the enterprise to extract knowledge, to extract requirement, to extract insights that are relevant and make inferences that are valuable for your project? Can you work with surveys? Can you conduct requirement review walkthroughs and all of this kind of stuff, joint application design sessions, all of that? Can you uncover information that is valuable. And when you uncover those information, can you analyze them? Can you write user stories? Can you specify requirements? Can you model processes? Can you write or create use cases? Can you prototype or wireframe? Can you model data? Things like ERDs. Can you do data flow mapping, data dictionaries, context diagrams? Those are like basic stuff that you would think that a new business analyst is very familiar with and can at least do some level of work with this, right? So if you do have all of these skills, I can guarantee you that you'll be valuable on day one with any organization. Because even if you're not familiar with the domain, you would ask the right questions using the right techniques to get the information and the knowledge you need about that domain altogether. All right. So I know my time is really running out. And then for underlying skills, somebody was asking about underlying skills earlier on. So domain or business knowledge. Now, even if you have not worked in a particular industry or domain before, we live in an information dispensation. Access to information is a lot easier than it was 5-10 years ago. There are less gatekeepers for information right now. You go online, Google, YouTube, right? You know, different industry websites and associations, they have information. So for example, if I want to learn about open banking right now, there are resources online, right? If I want to learn about healthcare information management systems, there are a lot of resources and tools and white papers online. So you can actually leverage personal research to build and solidify your understanding of a domain, right? And then communication skills. You must be able to speak and persuade while speaking as well. Persuade stakeholders. You must be able to write. How can you articulate your understanding of a subject? How can you pitch an idea in writing? How can you create important business analysis artifacts? You must be able to write. And then active listening skills are also important. A good business analyst should be able to listen objectively, carefully, in order to really extract useful insights and be able to show stakeholders that they have a clear understanding of the information that's been shared as well. And then stakeholder relationship management. How do you really build those relationships, and how do you really build the rapport you need to be trusted as an ally, right? To reduce opposition to your work and your approach, to gain more supporters, more champions for your cause. It is really important as a soft skill. So that would mean that you're proactive, you're outreaching to people, you build that trust and integrity, right? And then ambiguity management. Now, a lot of times, the kind of problem spaces that business analysts get thrown into are very ambiguous. Oh, we're seeing some symptoms of some problems. Something here is wrong. There's an opportunity here, but we're not very clear about it. So it's always chaotic, well, often, I should say, often chaotic, often ambiguous. So if you won't be able to manage yourself and the work in such ambiguous spaces, you might struggle as a new BA. So you must be okay with some level of chaos, of volatility, or uncertainty. You must be comfortable with that and be able to find a way, create form out of chaos or out of ambiguity. Okay, and then attention to detail. You must be able to spot patterns and trends from information, materials, and artifacts and resources. You must see patterns and trends where others will just see some text. And then systems and creative thinking. You must see beyond symptoms. You must see beyond obvious patterns as well, right? And visual thinking, very important for BAs in communication as well, right? Drawing, modeling, illustrating, interpreting. You must be a visual thinker. And then very importantly, you must be able to influence without authority, because depending on what part of the initiative you're involved in, a lot of times you won't have functional authority to make decisions, to call the shots. But you must be able to influence the folks who are the decision makers ultimately by using data, by using fact. Yeah, so then data analysis I see here, Kitochi, Data analysis is a good skill to have. Oh, yes. So, yes, data analysis would ideally be a good skill to have altogether, right? You don't need to be a data science guru or anything like that. Things like being able to visualize data is also part of that. It is really important. All right. Okay. So let's move on for the sake of time. I need to come back to questions. So tools. What kind of tools do you need to be proficient with? So first, office productivity tools are really important. These are like the very basic stuff. And I still see a lot of people struggle with this. Word processing tools like MS Word and Google Docs and Pages. You should be able to create docs and edit and process documents, spreadsheets, presentation tools, PowerPoint, Google Slides. You must be able to create very appealing aesthetic slides to communicate your ideas or findings, your requirements, and whatnot. And then requirement management tools. There are specialized tools to help you create requirements, update, edit, share requirements, trace requirements. So Jira and Confluence are probably some of the most popular tools out there. Rally, Sparks. So there are different ones out there, but you need to at least know one requirement management tool very, very familiar, fluently, right? Be able to use it. If you understand how to use one, you will be able to translate or transfer that knowledge to other tools. I know I'm rushing a bit here because of time. And then modeling tools. You cannot be a business analyst and not really be able to use modeling tools to model processes or data or systems and context to prototype as well. So tools like Lucidchart and Microsoft Visio and Draw.io. So a lot of these tools, have common features in them, right? So one could really replace the other, right? So you should get familiar with modeling tools. And then virtual collaboration tools, especially in this dispensation where remote work is, a norm, right? So tools like Miro and Mural and Lucid Spark are very important tools for you to be able to use as a business analyst. Any questions here so far? I know we are really on a roll for time's sake. Any other question that has not been addressed yet? If I briefly speak to how business analysts provide value, of course, beyond job titles. So SQL. So SQL here, yes, it's always been important. But the question will be, what is your area of specialization? Like for that business operations analyst role, I wouldn't expect them to necessarily be a big SQL person, not necessarily, right? But if you want to be able to wrangle data better, then it makes sense for you to be very familiar with, SQL. If you want to succeed and thrive with data analysis, that would really help you. And of course, if you work with teams that design the databases, right, then understanding SQL will become important as well. But not for all BAs, right? And then Zoom and Teams. Yeah, oh yes. So there are lots of other tools. I couldn't really add all of them. So Google Meet, Zoom, Teams. Exactly. So if you're a business systems analyst, it makes a whole lot of sense for you to be familiar with database concepts and tools, right? And programming languages, or languages, I should not say programming languages, to an extent, so that you can actually speak the language that developers speak. If you are going into business systems analysis, but don't forget that not all BAs will go into the technology domain. There are opportunities in different spaces. For example, there are BAs here. If I come here and just put, I take the word business away. Don't forget I said that you could actually search for jobs without using a single job title. So I put analyst, I put process, just keywords here. Process, I put, let's say I have a CBAP certification, right? So I'm looking for jobs that would have these keywords in them, okay? So I have this first role coming up here. It says digital business analyst, all right? And it's saying that you must be able to capture business problems, value drivers, translate business requirements into functionality, and assess the risk, opportunities, all of that. So it doesn't say anything about you being able to use SQL or you being able to do data modeling, all of that, right? So it's totally depends. There are different ways and approaches altogether. All right. Yeah, so this one says senior analyst, process improvement and continuous improvement. This kind of role will not be required to have any SQL skills. I do not believe so. So anyways, that's just that about that. Now, so I'm hoping that this is not really new to most of you folks that have been learning about business analysis. So there are different ways and different stages or levels where BAs can deliver value or can be engaged or hired, excuse me, for to work in organizations. So there, if we look at the strategy to execution view, you can be engaged before there is a project to help explore the needs, the opportunities, to establish justifications for the business to invest in a particular opportunity or problem to be solved, to create artifacts like business cases, like feasibility reports, like market analysis reports, to do needs analysis. So it's possible for you to be engaged as a BA and you would not even work on actual projects. You do your own work pre-project. And in some cases, your role might require that you work across the entire cascade. All right. So you might be involved in projects supporting the delivery teams, working with developers and designers and whatnot, doing a ton of requirements analysis and design definition. Or you can even be engaged post-project for operational improvement, continuous improvement, operations analysis, all of that, right? And the other perspective is what I call the enterprise horizons view, where your role is either helping to define the why and the what. What are the problems? What are the capabilities? Why should we pursue it? What are the justifications? Before we get to how is focused usually on delivery. And this is usually at the project level, right? And then operational analysis is how well can we extract more value? Can we maximize our investment in this solution? And there are different opportunities, different job roles and job titles across all of these levels, right? But for sake of time, I'm going to have to move on a bit. So my summary here, 4 key actions that you can take to close your hands-on skill gaps. Because like I said, a lot of times the gaps are around actual hands-on skills and work experience for transitioning BAs. So the first thing I would recommend is do some window shopping. Like what I'm doing here with Indeed here can be regarded as window shopping. All right. So, look at different jobs, what are they requiring? And if possible, follow that up with a skill gap analysis. Say, well, these jobs require all of these skills. I have all of these skills. This is where my gaps are. So you can then invest time in closing those gaps, getting some mentoring or coaching, or looking for temporary, volunteer opportunities and work experiences and all of that. Right? So seek help through Handson skills program in some cases. If you think that you're struggling with learning the tool, learning the technique, right? Get into programs that will provide you opportunities to learn by doing, right? Coaching and mentoring, all that would help you. And then those work experiences, prioritize them, get those work experiences. You can volunteer, you can actually get internships and secondments. I will need to pull up one of those websites right now and share with you folks. I can't remember. Volunteer, I'll share it shortly. While Tusan is speaking, I'll put it in the chat, okay? And then the other thing is stay motivated, stay hungry, right? Don't give up and say, well, I've tried my best. I don't think, you need to stay hungry because the rewards would definitely supersede the obstacles that stand in your way, right? So focus on the rewards. If your primary motivation is the pay, okay, look at the salaries. Go on Indeed and say, okay, all right, how much is this job offering? Okay, this one is offering between $70 to $85 per hour. Okay, that can be your motivation. If you're looking for better job, financial security or work-life balance, let whatever the outcome you're looking for be your motivation and stay the course altogether. All right, so I'm going to stop here. I'm going to pass it to Tosan, and then I'll take more questions as well while Tosan is speaking. Over to you, Tosan. Let me stop sharing as well.
Thank you so much, John. Thank you so much. That was a very good breakdown of what the business analysis domain entails. It is I'm sure we can all see that it's much more than just a title. It's much more than just a role. As John said, as he has broken it down, you can actually begin to see those key areas you want to focus on. And there's something John said at the end, it's determining the end you want to attain. You choose the goal you want to, and start looking for those skills that fix into it. Kenny does say that volunteer jobs are tough to get. Yes, they are. I myself am a transitioned business analyst. I used to be in the oil and gas industry, and through working with John, that was how I was able to transition into the business analysis role. And it was tough. It was tough, but at the end, I stayed the course. And yeah, I have found a couple of volunteer opportunities to use my skills as a business analyst. The title has not always been business analyst, but the skills I have learned transitioning have been very helpful. And, we thought about it. The other thing is that we've talked about this, we've talked about the skills to we've talked about job readiness. And it will be wrong of us not to share what we have. As I had said in the beginning, our facilitators do speak to courses that we have. So I do want to share information about the course that we actually have on this. And let me just get that up. Are you seeing my screen? No,
not yet.
Okay.
Listen, yeah. I'm also taking the time to answer some questions popping up in the
chat. Okay,
great.
I'm just okay. There we are. Okay, yes. So can you see my screen right now, right?
Yes.
I'm sharing. Yes. Okay. So yeah. Right, so this is the comprehensive business analysis hands-on program that we have. And what is it? It is designed to enable both new and existing business analyst professionals to, as John said, go beyond theory and start to get your hands dirty actually working on these skills. It is a program that is designed to practically equip you with the necessary skills. We do have a couple of, all our facilitators are experienced business analysts. All our facilitators have actually been certified. All our facilitators have had experience mentoring people who are in this situation, people who are either transitioning or people who are actually new or mid-level business analysts. Just a program overview of what the course entails. There are a few prerequisites. It is preferred that you do have fundamental BA training or certification because the course does not teach. The course walks you through using your hands. So before we can actually register, you have to go through an assessment by one of our BNet facilitators. And it does take 8 weekends. It's hands-on. Between the classes, after the classes, you do have one-on-one mentoring with our faculty just to make sure that you're in a place to walk through business analysis skills. And there's a cost to it. You can either do a full program, and I'll go to the next slide and show you what the curriculum is. You can either do a full program or you can break it down and say, okay, I want to do this module, but not this model. So what does the curriculum look like? There it is. It actually speaks to the techniques and of the business from the IIBA business analysis, the BABOK, sorry. So it does speak to that, and it's, as I said, it is hands-on. It's what you'll be doing in the office, and it rounds up with a capstone project. And what the capstone project is actually walking through a project from the beginning, from discovery to the very end execution. And this helps you just get your hands dirty. John, is there anything you wanted to add?
Nothing in particular. I think I've answered a lot of questions in the chat. So I just want to see if there are questions that I missed in any way. Yeah, so mine says, can the head of operations, where is that at right now? Give me 1 second. Can the head of operations in the bank transition to business analysis? Oh, definitely. We've seen a lot of examples. And then there was a question from Fola Shadi that was really important. And it was, let me see here. As a new BA, do you advise one to start off with a contract or full-time role? And I always advise full-time roles where possible, right? And the reason for that is that in the full-time role, you would actually find that employers would invest more into your growth than as a contractor. A lot of contract roles are either intermediate and above, because there's an expectation that you already have the experience. Come help us out, solve this problem with this project, and go and move on. All right. So if you find a full-time role versus a contract role, go for the full-time role and really leverage the opportunities to learn and grow in that role. So I think that's really all.
Shreya did ask, is certification necessary? I don't know if you answered it, but I would like you to speak to, is certification necessary? Because we do get that quite a lot from people who come, because we have a class for both certification and then we have another class for hands-on. So we do get that question. So John, I'd just like you to speak to it.
Yeah, so can you say that again? I was trying to read the question that just came through.
Is certification necessary to start?
Oh yeah, I think I answered that already from Shreya. Okay, yes. So it is not necessary. I wouldn't use the word necessary, right? I would use the word it is encouraged. And the reason for that is that there's no better way to learn the first principles of business analysis than to pursue that rigorous journey of certification, right? The rigor of prepping for certification really gets you grounded in the principles. Knowledge becomes very solidified. And so there's no angle of business analysis that will be strange to you in any case.
Yeah, I think there's another question, but before that, I would just want to mention that, yeah, we're on this call. It's hard to get to everybody. And later on after this session, some of you might have some more questions in your head and you want to reach out to us. A link is going to be placed in the chat. It's a Google form. If you could just fill that, put in your questions, put in your Google detail, your information details, and we can reach out to you at any point in time. We'll have a faculty reach out to you. I could reach out to you. Even John could reach out to you if you just put in your information in that form. And then we will get back to you with any questions you have. John?
Yes, I think that's all for now from me. Yeah, I'd love to hear your questions, or you can also connect with me on LinkedIn. And of course, there are a ton of other faculty members or coaches on the BNA platform that will be able to provide you support. Awesome. So I think
awesome.
That's all for me.
That's great. Yeah, so the link is in the chat. We'll keep it open so everybody has access to that link. I just want to say thank you for spending 1 hour out of your Saturday with us. And the recording of this session will be on our YouTube channel. I also want to talk about mention another YouTube video we did another session we had last week, which was for transitioning business analysts. And it was really good to just hear from people who actually transitioned to. I'll post a link to that YouTube video, but yes, do visit our YouTube page. And there's so many other videos that relate to other courses that we do. So once again, thank you for joining us and have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.